In today's video, we're going to look at the 25 best gaming altcoins where I see the most potential in the coming days and weeks. Stick around until the end. I've researched today's video thoroughly. We won't cover AI altcoins today to focus on the gaming sector. Usually, I discuss AI and altcoins, but today is all about gaming altcoins for a comprehensive overview. My research is strategic. I analyze all altcoin projects, including gaming ones. Today, we're exploring the 25 best and most promising gaming altcoins, some of which I've invested in, as we can't overlook certain sectors. You know how I personally approach my research, very strategically. I analyze all altcoin projects, and I've done the same with gaming altcoins. Today, we explore the 25 best ones, the 25 most promising I also bought into, since we can't overlook certain sectors. Yes, my channel mainly focuses on AI altcoins, but meme coins are included, RWA coins, and now gaming coins are part of it too. We're checking out the top gaming altcoins today. Yes, my channel mainly focuses on AI altcoins, but as I mentioned, meme coins are also included, as well as RWA coins, and now, like in today's video, gaming coins are part of it too. That's exactly why we're looking at the top gaming altcoins today. You probably all remember the gaming and Web3 altcoins from the last cycle, from the last bull run, like Sandbox, Gala, Multiverse X, or even Decentraland, which are currently starting to come back again. We can take a look, and in my opinion, the logical conclusion here is that sooner or later, liquidity will trickle down to the smaller projects. Let's review the situation. Sandbox is reviving, new gaming projects may thrive. For old altcoins like Gala, Sandbox, Decentraland, EngineCoin, I wouldn't invest in them anymore. Many investors remain in the red, not a good sign. New trends continue to emerge. Dinosaur altcoins like Gala, Sandbox, Decentraland, and EngineCoin. Many investors are still in the red. That's not positive, and new trends emerge. I prefer Beam or Superverse, as they're fresh and haven't cycled yet. It's positive when altcoins haven't had a bull run. In my opinion, this is not a positive sign, and in this case, new trends are constantly emerging. That's why I wouldn't necessarily invest in old projects from the last cycle. I definitely prefer projects like Beam or Superverse much more because they're still in their early stages, relatively fresh, and haven't gone through a cycle yet. It's definitely a very positive sign when certain altcoins haven't had a bull run. So that's one factor I always pay attention to. Has an altcoin project already gone through a bull run? Otherwise, as I said, if you like these kinds of videos, there will also be an RWA altcoin video coming up, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Yes, I put a lot of effort and work into all these videos, especially in the background with the research. A lot of work goes into it. Now, let's get started with the first projects, and Beam is one of the leading infrastructure projects in the gaming sector. In my opinion, this is an absolute no-brainer. You really can't go wrong here. The tokenomics are great, a large portion is already fully diluted, meaning most of the tokens are already in circulation. The team is delivering, and as I said, it's a whole gaming hub, a complete infrastructure that's being built. We already have a Binance listing, so the doors are open for new and fresh liquidity. So, if you want a completely safe bet that will probably give you around a 5x return from this point, I think a plus or minus 10 billion market cap is definitely realistic, maybe even more. So, it's quite possible that Beam will establish itself as a top leading gaming project, and we could reach a market cap of 20 to 30 billion. That's definitely a possibility, but personally, I take a more conservative approach in my research. I'd rather lock in great profits after a 5x return than set any moonboy predictions and then struggle to exit later. That's why I think there's potential for around a 5x return, just so you're aware. So, my second favorite project, or what I mean is I'm actually invested in this one too, has now shown a nice upward trend, and that's Superverse. With a current market cap of 1 billion, I think it's also one of the leading gaming projects. In this case, it's a whole infrastructure that's being built. So I'm not going to go into too much depth here so that you already know about it. It's more of a compilation of the 25 best gaming projects, but you should definitely be aware that it's a whole Web3 gaming hub where several games are being launched. It's also one of the leading projects, and many influencers keep talking about it, like Alex Becker, which is of course a very positive sign when it's being pushed by others. And while we're on the topic, no, I'm not being paid by any of these projects. So all the projects I present in today's video, I'm not being compensated by any of them to share a certain opinion or anything like that, just so you know. You can be sure that this is my own opinion, and of course this is not financial advice, so make your own decisions here. Next up, the project we're looking at is Metis. It's slowly but surely coming out of its bottom formation phase and is heading in a similar direction. It's also a bit more established and already has a Binance listing. This is a project I'm keeping a closer eye on because it's about creating its own infrastructure for gaming projects. Echelon Prime, a leading AI and gaming project, is exciting due to a potential Binance listing. Focus on fewer projects, ideally 10-25. Neural AI combines gaming and AI, creating items with AI prompts. Altura, a revived project, shows positive development and new AI tools. Here, they're delivering without end. It's a project with substance, so it's not really a project you need to worry too much about. I mean, all projects with a market cap over 200 million have a certain level of substance. They've established themselves. In terms of volatility and the overall risk you take with the investment, it's definitely manageable. It's actually a nice mid cap that you can consider investing in. You can also think about making an investment here. 2021 is a bit tricky for me because at the end of the day, you really need to focus on certain projects. You should never bring too many projects into your portfolio. Even if you watch my YouTube videos where I present a lot of projects, you should never make the mistake of ending up with 50 different projects in your portfolio because then you're way too spread out in the market. I always recommend having between 10 to 25 projects in your portfolio, depending on how much capital you have. But Echelon Prime is definitely an option to consider. It hasn't reached a new all-time high since the last surge in March, so you can see what stage we're at right now. Back then, we were at $25, which is almost a 2x from the last all-time high. I think a market cap between 3 and 6 billion is realistic, just so you know. The next project is definitely one of my top favorites, one of my favorite projects, with a current market cap of 140 million. It's Neural AI. You know this project from my videos. I introduced it back when it was $1 in May. People became aware of Neural AI because it combines two narratives, gaming and AI. Here, in-game items are created using AI. You basically have the ability to create in-game items with a prompt, similar to ChatGPT, which is extremely exciting from a use case perspective. We're already fully diluted, meaning all tokens are in circulation and there's been an incredible price performance. In my opinion, it's now, so to speak, too late to invest here, even though I still think there's potential for a 10x return from this point. I believe we've actually found a 100x coin. As I said, I introduced it at $1 and I can actually see Neural going to 100 this cycle. But you definitely have to consider that, especially for investors like me, or probably like you. I think you've also built a certain position here. We're already sitting on profits, so you really have to think twice about whether you want to buy in at the absolute all-time high. If you haven't found an entry point yet, I think it's okay to start buying again at around $7 or $8, but finding an entry at $14 or $15 is a bit tricky, so you definitely have to think twice about whether you want to buy at the top. Otherwise, with Altura, we have a similar case. It's also a project that has actually come back to life. It's a classic from the last cycle. We see that the last all-time high was at $42, and it has, of course, come back down significantly during the bear market. However, it has developed further, released more updates, and continued to work on the project, which is an extremely positive sign. It has a lot of substance to show for it, and has also released a new AI tool, so we need to keep that in mind. We have two narratives coming together here. Also, gaming plus AI again. The news just came out that this AI integration has taken place, and it was obviously extremely bullish for the whole project, and that's exactly why this massive pump happened. 2021, we're looking at it here on the yearly view. We've really come up from 1 cent to $1 now, so a good 10x has happened here. I would also be cautious about entering at this current time. I can definitely see us coming back again. It's completely normal and also totally healthy for profit taking to happen with such projects. That's why I can imagine that we might come back down to 5 cents or even 7 or 8 cents. That would definitely be a point for me personally where new investments can be made. I personally wasn't invested at that time. I had this project on my watch list, but I was unfortunately too late. Unfortunately, I wasn't invested. As I said, some listings are already available. So it's definitely a project you shouldn't lose sight of. Add it to your watch list, keep an eye on what the chart is doing, and I'd say if we come back to the range between $5 and $8, those are personally good entry points for me with Altura, because as I said, it covers two narratives, and a project like this can definitely reach the billion market cap range. So, from this point onward, I think there's roughly a 10x potential. Otherwise, CDFI is an absolute classic from the last bull run. It's basically about having a gaming launchpad here. It's basically an infrastructure being created for other gaming projects to launch their own projects. I think everyone here knows what a launchpad is at the end of the day, and it's basically the overall infrastructure for gaming projects. It's really a no-brainer here because when the gaming market comes back and new games are launched through CDFI, then it's basically the go-to place. One, the main infrastructure needed to launch new games. And that's why we're seeing the first signs here that it's coming back down. It's a project that you can get into. Current market cap is 130 million. The majority of the tokens are already in circulation, so more than 50%, and especially with gaming projects, which we'll talk about later, it's often a problem that not all tokens are in circulation, meaning that most of them are still locked or reserved. It's also reserved for game incentives, so basically for certain promotions within the game itself, for certain payouts, and for in-game currencies in general. So, a lot of tokens are often held back, which will then come into circulation over time, which makes sense and is, let's say, the core principle of the gaming project. So, we'll get into that more specifically later, but in this case, the tokenomics are fine. From the last cycle, there are probably still some investors at a loss. It's not the ideal starting position, but I'd say there's some substance there. Here, the risk is very manageable. There's actually a product available, so the infrastructure is in place, which is why the risk is really low. I would also say that a potential of 5 to 15 times is possible over this cycle. So overall, it's a good investment at this point where I think you can't really go wrong right now. But as I said, this is not financial advice. Next, we'll talk about the next project, Carrot, which already has surprisingly many listings. So there's a Coinbase listing and also a listing on KuCoin, and I'd say for a market cap of 80 million, it's not very common to have such large listings already. So here we definitely have a positive factor, and in this case we actually have AI integrations, so it's basically a complete foundation, a complete infrastructure for gaming projects. It's all heading in a similar direction. Bullish on Carrot, gaming liquidity soon, 80 million matters. We have had a long period of bottoming out, and I can very well imagine that sooner or later liquidity will come through from the larger gaming projects in Carrot. So 80 million isn't a whole lot, and we've also had a nice bottom formation behind us, so you definitely know what's up. Next up is the project Mirror, which some of you might know as well. So it's the little brother of Beam. Remember the last project? So here, Beam is also a big gaming infrastructure project, and Mirror is basically its little brother. There are definitely a few things that I don't really like. With Mirror, it's simply because not much is being offered here. So the games aren't being actively used, and while the infrastructure is there, not many games are being launched on Mirror, which is why I'm not feeling too bullish about it, to be honest. I was much more convinced back then, and I still wanted to include it in today's video, just because a lot of people have Mirror on their radar, but I'd rather focus on other gaming projects at this point. So I was definitely more convinced back then, and I still wanted to include it in today's video. Just because a lot of people have Mirror on their radar, I'd rather focus on other gaming projects at this point. So it's definitely not my first choice. It will definitely perform well. So I'm pretty sure that we'll probably see a 5x here. We also see a beautiful upward trend here. So the chart itself is fine. The tokenomics are okay. It's solid, but it's definitely not my first choice because, like I said, one or two things just don't quite fit with the project. Especially the games that are launched on it aren't really being used. So the application is in question here, but in my opinion, it's still a project that definitely has potential and will surely perform well. Now let's talk about the next project, which is Sidus. The current market cap of 60 million is definitely okay, and there's a complete gaming hub being offered here. So there's already quite a bit available. It's definitely a project that I'm very bullish on, and you can still get some really good entries at this point. So 60 million isn't really that much when you look at the chart. Unfortunately, they launched, in quotes, here in April. In 2022, that was basically the end of the last bull run, the last altcoin season, and that's why there was a pump followed by a complete sell-off. The chart doesn't look too good, but it's still a project that you definitely shouldn't lose sight of because the infrastructure is in place. Yes, we have active applications here, and in this case, the product has also been worked on over time. So that's definitely a, let's say, positive point. Here, I have to say it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, the chart doesn't look too good, and many investors are still in the red, but on the other hand, work has continued throughout the bear market, so I can really see CDU delivering a solid price performance. Heroes of Mavia, it's super exciting. It's basically like Clash of Clans. Yeah, I don't know if any of you know Clash of Clans. I think most of you should know it. One of the most well-known mobile games that ever existed. I used to play a lot myself, and that's why Heroes of Mavia is basically the Clash of Clans for Web3. We basically have a play-to-earn mechanism here. We basically have the opportunity to earn money actively through the in-game currency with the Mario token. It also runs on the base chain. We see it here. In my opinion, it's also a huge advantage that the base chain is in place because there's currently a lot of liquidity available as well as a very high volume, and otherwise the listings are great. Bitgate Bybit, so there's already quite a bit available here. I really like it too. And the bottom is actually in place, so take a look at the chart here. I don't have a deck screen or chart in this case, but you can see a beautiful phase of bottom formation here. That's why you can really think about building a position here. Here, we have to be very clear that we're dealing with a single bet risk. Everything will ultimately depend on whether this game really gains traction or if it gets played by the end users at the end of the day. And there's definitely a difference between gaming infrastructure and a single game here. So you really have to keep that in mind. There's definitely an increased risk here, but I can actually imagine a similar price performance as we saw with Axie Infinity. So some of you probably know it too. We're looking at it here, Axie Infinity. So it was the most popular game of the last cycle. Take a look at this chart here. It was absolutely massive what happened here. And to put it all into perspective, it's really important to understand that we had a market cap of 10 billion for this game back then. What happened back then was really, really big. And that's why I can also imagine something similar happening with Heroes of Maria. Maybe not quite as extreme as it was with Axie Infinity, but still, I can see Heroes of Maria becoming half as big as Axie Infinity, and from this point, that could mean a 100x potential. Maybe not quite as extreme as it was with Axie Infinity, but I can still imagine that Heroes of Mario could be half as big as Axie Infinity, and from this point, that could mean a 100x potential. So if Heroes of Mario actually reaches a market cap of 5 billion, that would really mean a 100x potential here. Be cautious, a 10x return is realistic if the game resonates. Buy now before they pump. So I'd say that a 10x return is more than realistic depending on how well this game resonates with people. But these are exactly the kinds of projects you need to buy now before they start to pump. In this case, it's really a prime example once again. Many investors in the crypto market aren't really paying attention to gaming projects right now, or they're maybe just focusing exclusively on the bigger projects like the ones you might know, such as Axie, Sandbox, whatever they're called, but it's exactly these kinds of projects that are currently at rock bottom that you would wish you had invested in a year ago. They might be focusing exclusively on the bigger projects like maybe Beam, Sandbox, whatever they're called, but exactly these kinds of projects that are currently at rock bottom, you would wish you had invested in a year ago. So I can definitely see a solid price performance happening here. I'm definitely feeling very bullish about Heroes of Maria. Otherwise, the next project is the Root Network, which is a similar case here. We also have a gaming infrastructure being offered here. We can take a look at the website. I've had my eye on it for a very long time. Yeah, it's definitely a project that you can get into, and it's coming back to life now. The charts for the gaming projects look really clean right now. So, a higher low, higher high, just like you want it. Right now, it's a nice accumulation phase, so a consolidation phase on a monthly basis. That's why I can also easily imagine that we could see a quick 1, 2, 3, 4 or even 5x with the Root Network. Otherwise, the next project is WACME Games, which is actually one of my personal top favorites. The current market cap is 40 million and most of the tokens are already in circulation. A massive gaming hub is being built at WACME Games. So here, all the parameters really align and the team behind it is really delivering. So the updates that have been released are really solid. So, in my opinion, this is one of the best overall packages out there. Of course, it's a bit tricky to buy at the top right now. I would actually wait a little longer before making an investment. I personally bought in at the absolute bottom here because we had an order block formation at that time, and the bottom was relatively easy to predict. We actually showed all of this internally as well, so it was posted publicly in my inner circle by Marcel, who is also a crypto expert, with whom I worked together back in 2021. It was shown at a market cap of 16 million at the absolute bottom. We definitely hit the bottom perfectly at that point. As I said, we shared it as an analysis in my inner circle. By the way, you'll find the link to my inner circle in the video description because we're making profits like crazy here. It's really amazing what's happening here and how well the analyses have worked out so far. So if you want to get early insights on projects, definitely join my Telegram group in the video description. So, you've got all the information listed there. Otherwise, as I said, WACME Games is one of the top projects that I'm still personally invested in. Otherwise, Ultra UAS is kind of a candidate that was extremely popular in the last cycle, and I could possibly imagine that ERS might come back here again. It will come to life. We're also seeing some early signs on a monthly basis that Ultra ERS is making a comeback. A massive gaming hub with a lot of substance. So, we can see from the last cycle that this project has continued to develop, more updates have been released, and there's marketing in place, so there's definitely a lot going on. In my opinion, it's still undervalued at 50 million. I can definitely see Ultra ERS having a good price performance, simply because it was very popular in the last cycle, and a lot has happened since then. So I can definitely see the last all-time high being reached. The last all-time high was at $500 million market cap. From this point, that would be a nice 10x that you could take. So I can definitely imagine it, but we have to wait and see. It's relatively risky because we had a long phase where Ultra US was basically dead. But when the general gaming hype comes back, US will definitely perform well again. That's why I can definitely see that there are good entry opportunities right now. Otherwise, corporate world is a little hidden gem with a 25 million market cap. You really have to be careful. There aren't that many listings yet, but for 25 million, the listings are already quite good. So right now, KuCoin and Maxi are really doing quite well for such a small project. In this case, it's also a complete Web3 gaming platform where quite a bit is already in place. For a 25 million market cap, it's really amazing what corporate world has to show for itself. This is also currently reflected in the course. So in my opinion, it is a very positive sign that we came back relatively quickly. Buying at the all-time high is tricky, but I'd prefer to invest now. Don't lose sight of the bigger picture. It's better to buy now than wait for old levels of $1 or $2 instead of catching a falling knife. A small investment is fine. Be cautious as more tokens are entering circulation, but it's normal for gaming projects to have limited tokens in circulation. Keep an eye on corporate world and the next project, 3bull. That's why I think it's also okay to make a small investment here. You have to be careful because there are still some tokens coming into circulation, but nonetheless, it's also quite normal for gaming projects that not a lot of the tokens are in circulation yet. So, you definitely need to keep an eye on corporate world, just like the next project, which is called 3bull with a 12 million market cap. It's also very interesting. The charts all look very similar right now, showing a nice phase of bottom formation. Now we're slowly but surely getting back into the phase where some gaming projects are starting to wake up again. Here we have increased volume and we can definitely see it. It's exciting. The next project, Walder World, is currently performing very well and in my opinion is one of the top candidates for this bull run. We saw a good performance last cycle, but again now, so I can really imagine that Walder World will be one of the top gaming projects this cycle. We also see partnerships with Epic Games here on the website, which is of course also very gigantic. If such a large infrastructure is created, it will get wilder here too and will certainly deliver a good performance. This project is a bit bigger, so we have to be a little careful with the entry since we've already pumped quite a bit. But as soon as we consolidate a bit and cool down in terms of price, I might find an opportunity to jump in here. Otherwise, Super Gems is also very interesting with a current market cap of 90 million. This project is absolutely fresh, having only launched at the end of November. Otherwise, this project is also running on the Base chain, which is definitely a clear advantage for me that it's operating on Base. As I said, it's still completely at the beginning. Most of the tokens are in circulation, so we have some parameters here that I'm very bullish about. Yeah, as for the overall concept here, it really ties into the bigger picture. Here's the complete overview. It's heading in a similar direction again. We also have the opportunity to invest in infrastructure here, but Superchamp is definitely one of the hot candidates for the coming days and weeks. I can really see this upward trend continuing, and that will quickly reach the range of 400 million to 500 million market cap. Now let's talk about the next project, which is Domi Online, with a market cap of 14 million. One of my top favorites when it comes to hidden gems in gaming projects is this one, because here we actually have a single game, and that's always the question. So I can really imagine that there are individual games out there that will do a 100x. We saw it back then with X Infinity, remember this example. I can roughly imagine that a handful of individual games will manage to reach over 1 billion in market cap. The question is, which game will prevail? Is it Heroes of Maria or is it Domi Online? But the hype around an individual game can become really huge. The hype will really become gigantic, especially when a lot can be earned by playing the games. So when you play the individual games, you can earn a lot of in-game currency through the different tokens. So a huge hype can definitely build up, but the risk is correspondingly high. So a market cap of just 14 million isn't very much. You have to be careful here, but I also see the first signs of a new trend. And that's exactly why I make the YouTube videos. So I don't just make the YouTube videos randomly. I always have a clear intention behind them considering the current state of the market. And if I can recognize certain trends early in 2021, you can benefit disproportionately from them. And that's exactly why I'm making today's gaming video. I'm not talking about AI coins or anything else today, I'm just recognizing that gaming is waking up again. Some gaming projects are making a comeback, and sooner or later, liquidity will trickle down from the larger projects into the smaller ones. You can definitely take advantage of a lot here. Otherwise, the next project is Neo Tokyo. You probably all know Alex Becker, and Neo Tokyo is a major infrastructure for gaming projects. He often serves as an advisor for some gaming projects in 2021, and that's why Neo Tokyo is also a play you can consider, especially with a market cap of just 22 million. And here we see the first signs again. When the gaming hype comes back, Neo Tokyo as an infrastructure will also perform very well. Otherwise, of course, Xbox is also a project that was actually launched fairly, and it just came out relatively recently. It has also shown very good price performance up to this point. It's definitely a gaming project that I'm currently keeping a closer eye on, and I'm feeling relatively bullish about it. Otherwise, Xverse is a project that has a market cap of 1 million. I wanted to include it in today's video, especially if you want to, in quotes, gamble a bit, because it's a project that's waking up again. The first pump has already happened, and I can easily imagine that maybe one new peak after another will be created. But like I said, you have to be careful. It launched back in 2024 and was heavily punished, going through a long phase of bottom formation. But when I personally see that certain projects are waking up after a long bottom formation, you can definitely take advantage of the opportunity to find a potential rise. Otherwise, Mocha Network is also a gaming project that I'm keeping an eye on. Otherwise, that's it for today's video. I don't want to make it too long. I think you've gotten quite a bit of input regarding all the gaming projects. In my opinion, it makes sense to pick maybe 4 or 5 projects from the top 25 gaming projects right now, so you have a nice healthy base diversification in your portfolio. At this point, I would invest 40% in AI and deep tech projects, 15% in gaming and RWA, and then fill the rest with meme coins. So that's definitely my current personal strategy. The main focus is on AI and deep tech, then gaming and RWA and meme coins. In my opinion, those are the top narratives for the upcoming bull run. Feel free to write in the comments which gaming projects you have on your radar right now. I would definitely be interested. Otherwise, I sincerely thank you for your attention. If you like the videos, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and otherwise, I'd say we'll see each other again in the next video. 2001?